YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and Melvin Gordon is holding out. A little surprised by that. Wasn't expecting that from him, but he wants to get paid or traded if he doesn't get paid. So we're going to do what we always do here at the Goat House. If somebody's on the block or possibly traded, we come up with scenarios here and the right teams that make sense. Most of these teams make sense because of their cap situation either now or in the future. And there's one team here that maybe the cap situation doesn't work out. We're going to make it work out because I think it's a great fit and make that team take the next step. We got some blockbuster ones in here. Maybe long shots, but they make sense, and we'll see. So right before we get started with some Melvin Gordon trades, subscriber goals at 40K by the end of this year. Be much appreciated if you can subscribe to the channel. Anybody that does subscribe, appreciate you very much. We got daily sports videos, though, so it'll be worth the subscription. Full NFL coverage in season. Cannot wait. There's our Twitter in the top right. Also a link in the description. Including that like button. We also much appreciated. Let's go on to the first trade here. And I got the Dolphins. And pretty simple trade here. Melvin Gordon and the Dolphins. And then the Chargers get a second-round pick and Kalen Ballage. Kalen Ballage has some potential. I know the Dolphins like him. They like Drake. So maybe they want to stick with what they got. Maybe the Dolphins know they're too early in the rebuild stage, but are they? Because their defense looks like it can play right now. You know, they got a list of DBs. They got a great group of linebackers. Yeah, they need pass rush, but they're starting to add to it. They got Wilkins in the interior D-line. So I don't know if that's really a full rebuild. I know people talk about tank for Tua or tank for that quarterback. Is that team in a position to tank? If you look at their offense, yeah, maybe, but not their defense. So maybe they can add that piece to that offense to make them that much better. Melvin Gordon is a top-tier running back, and I've seen trade scenarios over the last few days, actually. I disagree with them. People forget the value of Gordon just because he may want to be traded. Yeah, that makes his value go down a little bit, but not that much. The Chargers aren't just going to let him go. You know, they may pay him, or if they do let him go, it's got to be for the right price. He's a first-round running back. He's a first-round talent, but if he's making them trade him, his value goes down a little bit. Kalen Ballage ain't going to be a superstar. He's not going to be Melvin Gordon. He's got some upside to him. Throw a second-rounder in there. Could make the Chargers happy. You know, that they could want more than that too. But this is something the Dolphins could look into. Honestly, I think Melvin Gordon's worth more than that, but I guess if he makes the Chargers trade him, I think that's around the value. Maybe throw another late pick in there. But again, the Dolphins may want to keep riding this out, but it's a weird situation. Some people think they're tanking, and I don't know. I like their defense. You know, I don't like their pass rush, but I like the rest of their defense. So they could win some games. They're really good at home. You know, they could win some games at home because of their defense. Maybe Fitzpatrick brings some magic to Miami if he starts. So, I don't think they're going to get the first pick. The offense could be bad, and that could happen, but I don't know. So that's a good scenario for the Dolphins. Some other things, like why I thought of the Dolphins. Why did I think of that? I think they could use an upgraded running back. Like I said, they need something on that offense to help them win more games than what they're going to win. But look at the cap situation. They have $26 million this year, but he's going to get the contract for the future. And I'm looking on to 2020. They'll have $62 million in cap in 2020. Pretty good amount. They can make something happen, and that's why the Dolphins are on here. Next team. Same division, AFC East, the Bills. And somewhat of a blockbuster trade here, and something that makes a lot of sense, and I don't think it's too out there or anything. Of course, Melvin Gordon going to the Bills. I think it gives, kind of like the Dolphins, but I think we expect a little more offense from the Bills, another step to that offense. You know, Melvin Gordon going in there. LaShawn McCoy can play if he's on the field, but he's also, when he is on the field, not what he used to be. Doesn't mean he's not good. He's definitely good, but he's not Melvin Gordon. And he has 1 year left in his contract. If Melvin Gordon got traded, I know he has 1 year, but it would end up being multi-year. They would get a deal done while the trade happens. So LaShawn McCoy could be a rental here. Could help the Chargers in this year doing what they want to do, win a Super Bowl. And then Ty and Secchi, who actually the Bills just got in free agency from the Redskins. Promising right tackle. They also got Cody Ford. They may want to move Cody Ford into guard, but they could afford to do this. And the Chargers are actually looking for another right tackle where Nsekhe can play. So this could be very appealing to them. But because McCoy is kind of a rental, and we don't know 100% what we're getting from Nsekhe, but could help them. I think another pick could be thrown in because we're talking about a Pro Bowl running back here. Maybe one of the best in football. I like his game very much when he's on the field. So another 5th rounder in there. I think this makes a lot of sense. The Chargers are looking for another right tackle. They get their running back replacement. Even though they have a couple running backs on the team, they want that true running back like Melvin Gordon is to replace. So McCoy can help them for this year. I think it makes a lot of sense. I guess a long shot with these exact pieces, in play. But I keep saying it, but I think it's a trade that makes sense here. And the Bills could definitely use Gordon. Even though they got some solid running backs, they can get better. Can't be afraid to get better here. And then looking at the cap situation for the Bills, $22 million this year, and they'll have $60 million next year. So pretty much in the same boat as the Dolphins for the Bills there. So they can afford to do this, a team that can afford to do this, and have somewhat of a need and the trade pieces. Moving on to the next team. Another pretty simple one here is the Bucs. 2nd round pick with Ronald Jones, very similar to the Dolphins trade for Melvin Gordon. Ronald Jones still has some upside. It's a little risky because he couldn't really get on the field last year, and I think he can if he's on the Bucs still this year. New playbook. He couldn't figure out the playbook is what it was apparently, but new coaching staff, so he could figure it out. I think he's talented. I was super high on him in the draft a couple years ago, and maybe the Chargers were too because they do their homework on every single player like every single team does. So they can get some value here, but it's a little bit of a risk to trade for him. So get the 2nd round pick with it. The Bucs get Melvin Gordon, and that's a huge upgrade for the Bucs. So I think a really good deal for the Bucs. And you may say, well, the Bucs don't have the cap space this year, but they actually have the cap space next year. So like I said in the beginning of the video, there's a team that it doesn't really work cap-wise. This is not that team because even though they only have $8 million this year, you can backload it, and it could be all for the future for Melvin Gordon. Doesn't really have to be necessarily backloaded. It's just second year he gets paid, and they have $62 million in cap space in 2020. So the Buccaneers have the cap space. They don't right now. They don't need it right now. So the Buccaneers, it actually makes sense there for the cap, and it's a need. Maybe they have to get up a little more. Maybe the Chargers aren't super high on Ronald Jones. I would take a try at Ronald Jones, though. I think he's got some upside. Maybe the Bucs make him their starting running back this year if he stays. Another trade here, and this is the team where the cap doesn't really work. They're towards the bottom of the league, and they're going to have negative next year, actually, and that's the Chicago Bears. But why I had to throw this team in here, because we can make it work, and it just takes the Bears to that next step, which where they're at could already be Super Bowl champions, really. They're a contender, but this really gives them the next step. Now, even though I put it in here, I don't think this happens. And I'll tell you why. I think the Bears are super high on David Montgomery. They traded up to get him. I think they think he's their future. But they have to be considering this because Melvin Gordon makes them take that next step. And I thought about Montgomery and a higher pick than what you see up there, 5th, for Melvin Gordon. But this is going to be a cap situation in the future for the Bears. Don't know if they'll be able to pay Melvin Gordon. Danny Trevathan I threw in there because the Chargers definitely need another linebacker like that, and he's going to be a free agent, so the Bears will not be able to pay him going forward. So Danny Trevathan, David Montgomery, and I know, like I said, the Bears are high on him. They like him. I know the fans like what they're hearing about him. But I think if the Bears needed Melvin Gordon, the Chargers would have to have David Montgomery. I think they would just have to. I don't know if any other running backs on their team are appealing to take over the role of Melvin Gordon. And the Chargers also get a 5th-round pick. Why? Because the Bears get a Pro Bowl running back, and Uchenna Nwosu, I think, could help the Bears out a lot. He can play multiple different linebacker spots, and I think he really helps their pass rush because besides Khalil Mack, I know you do have Leonard Floyd, who's shown flashes if he's healthy. They don't have much of rotation, so they can use another guy that can play multiple linebacker spots, get after the quarterback. So that would be very appealing, and he's actually pretty valuable himself. And this is quite of a blockbuster one. I have a bigger one actually coming that makes sense, but this one's pretty big. But at the same time, I don't know if the Bears, I think the Bears like the future of Montgomery, and I actually think the Chargers like the future of Nwosu. I think they're pretty high on him. I think they're kind of training him to be that Melvin Ingram of the future who is their guy. That's the guy that runs that defense. And you could argue Danny Trevathan is he runs the Bears defense. He's the captain of that defense. And our very own Danny of the Goat House, who covers the Bears, said he would not do this. He would say it would have to be a no for him, just because Danny Trevathan kind of leads that team. And even though he only has 1 year left, they're trying to win a Super Bowl this year, so it makes sense. This is a big time long shot, but I think Melvin Gordon makes the Bears take that next step, And I think this is what they would have to give up to get it done. Pretty interesting, though. And I got 2 more trades, actually both with the same team. This first one also could be a long shot, and it's a blockbuster one, but I think it works out here. And it's the Texans. And Jadeveon Clowney and the Texans can't come to an agreement on a deal right now. He's got the franchise tag. And then Melvin Gordon, maybe they can't, him and the Chargers can't come to a deal, so why not flip them? And there's a couple reasons it makes a lot of sense, and there's a couple reasons why it does not. First, kind of like I explained, they could want to move to a different team because they're not happy with their current team. With the contract negotiations, that makes sense. And then also, I think the Texans could use Melvin Gordon. You send Lamar Miller over, who the Texans, I don't think they see him in their future. He could help the Chargers right now. Yeah, he's not Melvin Gordon. And then I involved Nwosu again because the Texans would be pretty desperate for some kind of pass rush help there. I think he would play on the outside there for the Texans. Then some picks involved there. I think Clowney is the most valuable thing here. Maybe Gordon is, you notice him more. He's more flashy. He's the running back, but pass rush and the ability to stop the run sets Clowney as the most valuable player in this trade scenario. But why this doesn't make sense is because I don't know if the Chargers necessarily need Clowney. Yeah, he's going to be appealing, and he can move him to different spots. They have Ingram and Bosa. They also have Nwosu. So do they necessarily need him? Is there something they're going to jump on? Clowney, I guess, could be a player anybody would try to get if they had the opportunity. And I think the Texans would just really want to keep Clowney. So maybe this wouldn't happen. I think it makes a lot of sense because the two players can't come to an agreement with their teams right now. Gordon, that really hasn't opened up quite yet. So if this happens, if these 2 top-tier players were involved, I think these would be the other pieces involved in it. But I have another Texans trade that actually would make a little more sense, and Lamar Miller is involved again. The Texans don't need Gordon, Miller, and Foreman. Foreman's got a good future if he stays healthy, so maybe he's in here, but the Chargers trying to win right now. I think Miller helps them the best, but he doesn't have the values, like he once had. So I think a 3rd-round pick going along makes some sense there. And then why the Texans? Why do I have 2 deals for the Texans? Why am I insisting on the Texans? Well, they still have $41 million in cap this year, and they have a whopping $83 million at this point for next year, the 2020 offseason. So a team that can do it, and a team that actually can pay Melvin Gordon and Jadeveon Clowney, especially if you move on from Lamar Miller. They need other pieces. They could use more pass rush. They could use secondary. They could use offensive line for sure. Offensive line is the big one. They did draft some guys. But this will, help them take that extra step, help Deshaun Watson, open up the run game so the pass game opens up more. It's just not a predictable offense, because even though, they couldn't block too well, at the same time, it was a predictable offense last year. So I think teams were expecting pass. You can open things up both in the run game, pass game with a guy like Melvin Gordon, and they have the cap space. So I like this one a lot. My final prediction, though, after all this was said, so, I guess it's kind of funny because all these trade scenarios and a lot of them could work. I still think he ends up back on the Chargers, and looking what they got going forward, they have the money. They got $55 million for next year. It looks like a lot now, but they do have to sign some other guys probably too, and they want to make some signings in free agency. But bottom line is they could do this. They can easily get him back. $11 million this year. So they could even raise what he gets paid this year a little bit if they wanted to, which I don't think he needs that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he does want to get paid more right now, which they could do it, but it's not by a lot. More for the future. I think negotiations are going to start. I think they're going to get a deal done. They don't want to lose their running back here. And they do have other good guys that can play too. They don't have Melvin Gordon. Other than Melvin Gordon, they don't have another Melvin Gordon. But it seems like they play pretty well even without him because it's a good team. But I think they get this done. And people are talking about that, his trade value will go way down because he demanded to be traded. But the Chargers are either going to pay him or they're going to trade him for something valuable. They're just not going to give him away. I think I saw Bleacher Report trade scenarios, and it was just ridiculous. They were not valuing him high at all. The Chargers would not do that. It's one thing if they can't pay him. They can't pay him. He's demanding a trade. He's not really demanding a trade. He's only going to demand a trade if he doesn't get paid. Haven't even started negotiating yet. So it's one thing if you can't pay him and he's already demanded the trade. Okay, then you know they have to trade him. We can lowball this team, and somebody's going to steal Melvin Gordon. Not the case here. Not the case whatsoever. I guess we'll wait and see if we hear more. I'm not completely ruling out the trade. That's why I did this video and talked about the teams that could trade for him. I would like to trade for him. But this is my prediction. It makes sense. The Chargers pay the man, or if they do trade him, it's going to be for something pretty good. Maybe even more than some of the ones I had here. So we'll see. Very interesting. Let me know if you guys have any scenarios. In the comments. Love seeing that. Any different scenarios, or if you're a fan of the teams I had trading, do you like it? Deal or no deal, basically. So let me know your guys' thoughts there. We got plenty more NFL predictions on the channel and more to come. Full coverage in season. We have some NBA content as well. Daily coverage here at the Goat House, so please subscribe. Click that like button. Be much appreciated. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.